皆さんこんにちは。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isobe. I'm the Managing Director of Toyota Motor Corporation. I'd like to first of all thank you for attending this partner robot briefing despite your very busy schedules today. I will first brief you on Toyota's initiatives to develop partner robots for practical application, and then report on the launch of rehabilitation assist robot rental services. So, first of all, why is Toyota developing partner robots? As you know, Toyota's global vision is to develop always better cars and contribute to enriching the lives of communities under the slogan, aim to exceed expectation and be rewarded with a smile. We have proposed and developed partner robots as our companions in responding to various social needs in harmony with humans. Toyota began developing robots in the 1980s to support vehicle manufacturing in our plants. Then, in 2004, at a news conference, and in 2005 at the Aichi Expo, we proposed the concept of robots that can coexist with people. We then released our development vision in 2007 to start the transition from the development phase to the demonstration phase. In 2008, we announced the personal mobility concept, and in 2011, unveiled technologies and demonstration plans for nursing and healthcare support robots. Partner robots to coexist with humans are expected to be actively used in many life scenes in the future. Today, Toyota focuses on two areas which we consider particularly important, namely mobility assist and aging of the population. We are striving to develop commercial robots that can address these societal needs. As Japan's birth rate declines, the number of elderly will increase while the working age population will decline. In 2050, the number of workers who support one elderly citizen will be reduced to 1/3 of the number it was in the year 2000, which means that the burden on the working generation to care for the elderly will be tripled. We believe that partner robots can help to alleviate this problem. We want to realize by 2050 a society where partner robots can support the lives of senior citizens and assist with their nursing care so that the workers of 2050 don't have to feel the extra burden. To work toward this future vision, Toyota has been developing robots under the concept of freedom of mobility for all and the joy of self-reliance. And we aim to commercialize partner robots in four main areas: senior life support, medical support, and personal life support, and welfare support. Now then, I would like to talk about partner robots that we are currently developing with customers based on going to the actual sites to study the field. Let me start with the stand and ride personal mobility winglet in the area of senior life support, a robot to help maintain healthy, active living. The winglet is a mobility robot that enables seamless transport between indoor, commercial, and other facilities and the outdoors. It's being used by many customers, including the elderly, at our Mega Web showroom, at events, and even on public roads in special experimental zones as part of a series of field tests to enable mobility robots that can coexist with people. Next, an example from medical support to aid quick recovery. Here, let me introduce robots for walk training assist to support rehabilitation programs for patients with lower limb paralysis caused by stroke and other ailments, as well as the balance training assist robots to support rehabilitation for the maintenance and recovery of balance. These robots can adjust the level of assist to the recovery pace of the patient and can also turn rehabilitation programs into fun games. And this helps to reduce the training burden on the patient and also enables them to engage in the training for longer.
これら2つのロボットは
Those two types of robots have been utilized by 34 medical institutions to pursue the clinical researches. In the process of clinical researches, we received feedback from the patients, physicians, as well as physical therapists that they were highly motivated for rehabilitation, the fun of rehabilitation, as well as ensuring the safety of rehabilitation. And thus, based upon the results of such clinical researches this year, that we decided that the rehabilitation assist robot to be introduced for practical application. This is going to be explained later on. Next, about the independent life support or living support. In the future, in order to extend support widely to nursing, independence, and daily life, we are involved in development of the what is called HSR robot. It is a human support robot, including picking up things or bringing something, as well as the possible application for health management, as well as preventive care. And we're promoting demonstration at the facilities for elderlies, as well as the houses of handicapped people. We need to further promote technology development and demonstration in order to improve the practical use of such robots. And therefore, we are engaged in the open innovation type of the arrangement to accelerate the research and development as well as demonstration. That is, these robots are provided to the universities and academic institutions as a platform and form a development community and share the results to promote development and demonstration. And also, we are interested in supporting caregivers as well. In the caregiving or nursing setting, more than 80% of the caregivers say they have an experience of the back pain, and one of the major reasons has to do with the need for transfer of the patients. To improve that, we are currently developing the transfer assist robot to assist not only the patients but also caregivers. At present, those robots are used on a trial basis by the patients at the hospitals as well as elderlies at nursing homes to realize practical application. And also, in order to maintain the cognitive ability of the elderlies, it is pointed out that the communication is an effective means. And by using the conversation robot, the elderlies can enjoy conversation. The conversation robot that is currently under development would offer various topics for conversation and assume the emotion and feeling of the counterpart and maintain a long communication and dialogue. And this is also currently in the demonstration phase at various hospitals to expedite the introduction into various settings. I've so far explained about various kinds of partner robots to realize the accelerated practical application of partner robots. We would continue to face customers to identify their needs and at the same time work together with the partners, the research institutions, those organizations involved in demonstrations, as well as government ministries and agencies. And eventually, the partner robots are going into the practical application phase. And as the first phase as such, we'd like to explain about the rehabilitation assist robot, Welwalk WW-1000. I've so far explained about our initiatives to realize the society with the mobility for all and people enjoying their independent life, and hope that we can make a contribution in any way through partner robots. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Tamaoki to explain about the outline of the Welwalk WW-1000. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Then I'd like to ask Tamaoki, the general manager, to explain about the new robot. Hello, my name is Tamaoki. I'm the general manager of the partner robot division. I'd like to take your time to discuss the rehabilitation assist robot, Welwalk WW-1000, which will be the first commercial product for its purpose. What is Welwalk? It's an active training and rehabilitation device for recovery of lower limb functions. And this robot, from the initial days of development, have been jointly developed with the Fujita Health University. Fujita Health University's policy is clinical first, and Toyota's policy is go and see, or go to the site to study and observe. And as a result of the combination of these two visions, the Welwalk was completed. There were various problems related to the walk rehabilitation. This is a case of stroke patients. On the right-hand side, you see the patient who had initially started the training. And when you have a stroke, and if you have hemorrhage in the right-hand hemisphere of the brain, your left-hand side will totally be paralyzed, which means that you'll not be able to support your weight on your both legs. Therefore, you start your training wearing these long leg braces, and as you can see, although long braces can help you to support your weight, because your knees are all strapped up, it's difficult to swing your legs forward to take the next step. And as the rehabilitation proceeds, then the patient will shift to short leg braces, which are strapped on just to the ankles. But of course, the patient cannot support their weight on their own, which means that their knees may buckle. And so there's the danger of them falling. And so that's what made such rehabilitation walk training very difficult. This robot has been developed. We started the joint research and basic research, as well as conceptual design from 2007 with the FHAU, and then after clinical research at the FHU, and then at 20 or more hospitals, we had been proceeding with clinical research at the Toyota Memorial Hospital and others. And in November of last year, the Welwalk did receive approval as a medical device, and we were able to release the device today. Now then, let me go on to the composition of the Welwalk. The Welwalk will be fitted onto the patient's affected leg to assist with the flexion of the knees. So it's composed of a robotic leg that does that, as well as the main body, which consists of a treadmill and monitors, which are comprised into a system, an entire system. After the stroke, the patient will be fitted with this robot leg and will start their walk training on the treadmill. But on the sole of that robot leg is a pressure sensor, and data from that sensor can control the motor in the knee, which allows for precise, accurate assistance of the walk motion. So during the stance phase, when you want the motor to support the weight, the motor will enhance its torque to keep the knees from bending. And when you're in the swinging phase, you want to swing the leg forward to take the next step. And then the robot motor will assist the swinging of the legs at the best timing. So even from the initial days of rehabilitation, the patient will be able to walk long distances at gaits which actually approximate natural walking. So one of the outstanding features of the Welwalk is the fact that it has combined the best of the short and long braces. Now, when we developed the Welwalk, we paid consideration to two factors. One is support based on motor learning theory, and second is ease of use in the clinical setting. Now, let me talk about support based on motor learning theory. What is motor learning? It means, in the case of loss of movement due to illness or other causes, allowing such movement to be recovered by learning the movement anew. This is motor learning or rehabilitation. And as factors that facilitate motor learning, there are several principles as indicated on the right. And by incorporating these elements into the robot leg, we were able to achieve appropriate support for the patient. For example, it will provide appropriate support but not be over-supportive. So the assist level can be adjusted. Initially, the patient may suffer various paralysis levels ranging from very light to very heavy depending on the level of the stroke. So the partial body weight suspension can be adjusted according to the patient's condition, and the machine can also adjust the amount of leg swing assist as well as the knee flexion timing, etc., to provide the appropriate assist. And also, as the rehabilitation proceeds, the patient is recovering, but you should not make them too reliant on the robot, so you will reduce the level of assist of the robot according to the recovery level of the patient. So one of the striking features of this robot is the seamless adjustability. Also, another factor that's very important is to notice or discover the issues. When you're playing sports like golf, you will practice the swing, but it's very difficult for you to see your swing in action. And when you take a video, then you'll be appalled at your very poor swing, and you'll have to make some corrections. The same thing for the gait. The patient feels that he or she are walking appropriately, but there are cases when their body is tilted or they're not swinging their leg forward enough. So by showing the patient's gait using a front view and side view, the patient can monitor their own gait and can make corrections as necessary. Also, the load, whether the patient is placing enough load on the leg or not, that's fed back using voice and sound. Also, there's feedback to the therapists and the physicians. Various data will be gathered and also displayed on the physician and therapist's monitor in order to provide the most appropriate intervention. Next, ease of use in the clinical setting. In order to make the Welwalk accessible to the patient, the treadmill is of a low deck. Also, to enable long-distance walking during the limited time for training, we want to make the fitting as easy as possible. And in our experience, we know that therapists will be able to fit the Welwalk on the patient in 5 minutes and maybe 1 minute if you're experienced, which means that you can train for longer. Also, the therapists and physicians also find this Welwalk very easy to use. For example, centralized touch panel control and training guides which incorporate various parameters is also very useful. And these are based on feedback that we received from the therapists and physicians based on our clinical research.
We will show you a demonstration later on about those functions and features. And since 2014, in 23 facilities, the Welwalk has been introduced, and nowadays more than 300 patients have gone through training using this equipment. I'd like to invite Professor Saito later on to tell us about the potential for application in medicine of this Welwalk. And Professor Saito is the professor of the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine #1 of School of Medicine of Fujita Health University. He's also the executive vice president of the Fujita Health University. At the same time, he's the deputy chairperson of the Japanese Association of Rehabilitation Medicine. And also in 2015, he received the Sidney Licht Lectureship Award, which is considered as the honorary award for those concerned in the rehabilitation. Now, Professor Saito. Good afternoon. I'd like to talk about the various case studies using this technology for clinical research. This is a 60-year-old female. She suffered a stroke, and then there was a cerebral hemorrhage. And after 4 weeks, she started to receive rehabilitation for walking. If you take a look at the right top, the film, she's wearing a long brace. Therefore, her movement is very slow. She has a difficulty in placing a load, and the physical therapist behind is trying to support her. She can only make a few steps. Now, in place of this brace, this training robot is used, and this is after 7 days. As you see there, she's walking. Compared to the right on the top, she has a cane. So first, she placed a cane in front of her and then move her two legs. While as in the case of the robot training, her walking is more natural. And then in the middle, as you see, when this is on the plain ground, as you see, her condition is improving. Although she has a cane, on the right, she cannot support her body effectively because the cane is shorter. But now, compared to that, she's walking effectively, and after 5 weeks of training, as you see on the left bottom, physical therapist is not touching her body at all. She's walking all on herself with the help of the robot. And it may appear that the same robot is there to assist her walking, but there are differences. And after 5 weeks, at the time of discharge, she can now walk with a smaller cane and a short brace. Therefore, for stroke patients with the paralysis and the limbs, they have a difficulty in walking, but with this kind of the training robot, they can start walking very effectively. And the major difference between the two is that, first of all, after training, she is walking strongly, and this is in the case of the knee extension mode. This is the comparison between the 1 week after training and 5 weeks after training. As you see, on the top, the robot is supporting her knee extension, but on the bottom, it is now completely different. She is on her own, and the walking speed is twice as fast as 1 week after training. Thus, with the training robot, they can start working quite effectively. Therefore, I believe this technology has a great potential. And Okayama Rehabilitation Hospital is one of the organizations involved in the joint study, and we conducted some interview. Right after the onset, the patients are not accustomed to the paralysis of their body, and yet from early times they can start walking training. And I believe that's the beauty or the benefit of the system. They have a strong desire to be better, and therefore, or in my case actually, I concentrated heavily because I just trusted the physician, and this is quite effective because I listened to the explanation, and also I can see that my body is twisted or my leg is slow to move. This is a new type of rehabilitation using robots, and therefore I thought this is completely new. But actually, this is a kind of a translation of what we used to do in practice into this technology. Therefore, I would say that this is a kind of multifunctional brace. This is somewhat unique to robots. We can make an adjustment using various parameters in a quantified fashion. And also, if you want, you can repeat what you need to do. In fact, the repeating again and again is something that the human physical therapist finds difficult to do, and yes, you can do that. When I feel that my knee is not oriented properly, then I hear the alarm, and therefore I know clearly that my body is not moving properly. Rather than when they are walking with assistance by the physical therapist, the patients feel that they feel more independent when they use this robot, and this is something that we need to learn from the robot as well. Well, some consider that the robot technology may be better than the ability of the therapist, but in fact it is the medical professionals like us who have to make best use of such technology, including therapists, and therefore we have to be capable of learning this technology to make best use of the robotics. Thank you. As you have seen in this interview, and that's exactly what we felt in the process of development of this robotics. So in summary, as Mr. Chamoki mentioned earlier, we are also focusing on clinical setting, clinical practice, given the highest priority. We want to create something that is really applicable. And what I mean is that, for instance, in the case of training, it is about learning. Therefore, the elements that are required for learning have to be there to be assisted by the robots. And therefore, the good enough support but not over support. This is important. There is a big difference between whether you are able to walk or you would acquire ability of walking. You might be able to walk with assistance by the robots, but if you have to train yourself, otherwise you cannot eventually become independent and start working. And therefore, it has to be just enough level of assist with the feedback, and eventually, gradually reduce the level of the assistance or support. And they are quantified in numerical parameters. And the patients might feel they can walk a lot with the heavy support by the robots. But if you can only make 3 steps, and then you can only walk 3 steps with the training. But if you can start walking many steps, then you are encouraged to do more. You feel you can walk, and therefore you want to train more or exercise more. That's a kind of positive feedback. If you try to force your patient to walk, and then in that case, the patient tends to rely on the side of the body that still moves, and therefore, eventually, the walking style could be somewhat distorted. Therefore, with the assistance by the robot, the capable limb would do what it can do, and therefore, eventually, the paralyzed limb would acquire the ability to move. And also with the alarm, the buzzer, the alarm and the chime, the patients can't know what's wrong with that. And also physicians or the physical therapist can detect what is going on, and therefore they can effectively prepare the program for their training. And that is about noticing problems, and they will be put into numerical data, and then that will be translated into the training schedule or plan by the physical therapist. Therefore, the robot and physical therapist are assisting the patient, but in a different way. In other words, the robot is capable of offering various kinds of supports, as well as only the two hands that the physical therapist can offer, and they can respond the maximum 0.3 second, and therefore sometimes they tend to over support the patients, and therefore the patients would lose the opportunity of trial and error. For instance, if the patient is about to fall, the robot would wait until the very last moment, and finally at the very last moment, the robot would assist the patient, and that could be different in the case of the physical therapist, and therefore I would consider that the robot is quite capable and powerful as a training tool. I'd like to hand over the microphone back to Mr. Tamaoki again. Thank you very much, Professor Saito. I'd like to continue the presentation about the initiation of the rental arrangement of the Welwalk WW-1000. In November 2016, this was approved as a medical equipment or medical device. At first, spending about 3 years, we want to offer about 100 units to medical institutions within Japan. And the rental fee, the monthly fee of 350,000 yen plus initial cost of 1 million yen. After this presentation, in May, we start taking orders, and then in September, we start delivery of the equipments. During that period, in June, there will be the 54th annual meeting of the Japanese Association of Rehabilitation Medicine. We will display the WW-1000 to be exposed to large audience. And this is about the rental system and supporting organization. The Toyota is the car company, and therefore we are a newcomer in this industry. And therefore, we decided to work together with the operating companies and service providers that have rich experience in healthcare. Robot is developed and manufactured by Toyota. And then the Good Life Design, that is a joint venture of Toyota and Mitsubishi Corporation, would be in charge of rental service planning and management. And Paramount Bed, Pacific Supply, and Matsumoto Gishi Seisakusho, and Arizona Orthopedic Supplies would be in charge of sales and marketing as the operating companies. And for service provider, we have Paratechno Company, which is in charge of providing service. Now, toward the future. The rehabilitation assisted by robot has just begun. By partnering with the physicians and the medical professionals, we want to further improve the functions of the robots. And also, we are interested in expanding product family for the healthcare and nursing field. In addition to Welwalk WW-1000, and also we hope to assist developing environment that will be conducive to introduction of such robots, including the medical insurance and so on, and to improve the environment for facilitated introduction of this kind of technology. As we envision introduction of this technology in the clinical setting, in fact, we hear that the desire is voiced in overseas as well. Therefore, at the earliest timing, we hope to expand introduction in overseas as well. This concludes my presentation about Welwalk WW-1000. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to have a demonstration of the robot itself. Please look either at the robot to your front right or the screen to your fore. I am Konosu from the Partner Robot Division. I'd like to demonstrate the Welwalk WW-1000. I would like to explain the features of the robot in line with the actual flow of a rehabilitation session, but due to the interest of time, we have already fitted the person playing the part of the patient with the robot leg. Now, she is a healthy individual, but we will work on the assumption that she has paralysis in the left leg. And the robot will be controlled by the person playing the part of the therapist who will guide the actual rehabilitation. Now, in an actual rehabilitation session, the patient will be fitted with the robot sitting down on a chair like this to start rehabilitation. The robot will also support the patient as she rises from the chair. So please do stand. So as you can see, when the patient attempts to stand up at her own timing, the robot detects her movement and assists the movement of her paralyzed left knee. And once she stands up, then the knee will be supported by the power of the motor from buckling so she can remain standing with ease. Now then, she'll be fitted with a harness for safety and will begin to walk. The robot will be controlled entirely from this operation panel, which the therapist holds. So unless the patient has a severe impairment, the therapist will be able to control the device alone. And you can also adjust the walking speed very easily from this panel. Data on the patient's gait characteristics is collected from a force sensor, which is embedded in the sole of the robot leg and used for controlling the motor in the robot leg knee to provide the appropriate walk motion. Another feature of the Welwalk is its ability to adjust the difficulty level of the training through different walk adjustment mechanisms. During the initial rehabilitation phase, the patient cannot flex the knee on her own, and therefore, when she shifts weight onto her affected leg, the motor will fully assist the knee stretch motion. But as the patient recovers, she'll be able to control the knee force on her own. Therefore, the therapist can lower the robot's knee extension assist level from this panel. So when the assist level is lowered, then when the patient shifts her weight onto the affected leg, then she has to brace her knee strongly so that the knee doesn't give in. Also, when the patient swings forward her paralyzed leg, the motor will kick in to pull the leg upwards to assist the motion. Initially, the motor's pulling force will be set to slightly exceed the weight of the robot leg so as to provide more assist. But once she starts to recover, then the pulling up force of the motor will be reduced in stages, and in the final phase of the training, the motor pulling force will be set to minimum, just enough to cancel out the weight of the robot leg, so that the patient can continue to train without feeling the weight of the robot leg. Also, the knee bending angle when the patient swings the affected leg, as well as the knee flexion speed, can also be adjusted.
Here on this monitor panel, the change in the angle of the knee during walking, as well as the change in the load that is placed on the paralyzed foot or leg, can be monitored on a real time to evaluate in a quantified fashion the walking condition to give appropriate guidance or advice. Another function of the Welwalk is the feedback function by way of images and sound. For the patient that has paralyzed leg, in many cases, their senses are paralyzed as well. Therefore, to facilitate rehabilitation, the feedback by way of the vision and auditory function are important. First, as a feedback by images, the front monitor shows the view of the patient from the front, and also the side view of the patient while walking, which is rather difficult to capture in usual setting. And also, sometimes patients tend to worry about the paralyzed leg, and therefore they tend to bend forward. In such a case, the image of the leg, or the foot rather, would be displayed on the screen so that they can maintain the appropriate posture and confirm the leg and foot and continue walking. And also, we can encourage the level of desirable or the desirable range of the motion by indicating the range of motion. And also, in terms of the sound, the feedback, first here is the feedback function to indicate that the body weight was placed on the paralyzed foot. With this, the chime or the bell, the patient is notified that she's walking in appropriate fashion. And also, as I mentioned at the outset, the assist level of extending a knee would be gradually reduced, and when patient is not capable of exercising enough force to extend their knee, and when the knee is bent, then there will be alarm, so that the patient is encouraged to stretch their knee so that they don't have to hear the alarm. Then when the series of training is complete, and then you just press the button to stop. When the patient wants to sit down, the motor for the knee would assist the slow movement of the knee. Thus, the patient would be notified of the timing by the sound, and their slow movement would be assisted. Therefore, they don't have to fall behind or fall backward, and they can sit safely. And then the equipment is removed, and with that, the training is complete. This is the end of the demonstration of the Welwalk WW-1000. This concludes my demonstration.